Well, it is 6 o'clock, so we're gonna go ahead. Good afternoon.
Good evening.
We're gonna go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. And for the invocation, would you do the honor, please?
Let's pray. Father, we are grateful for a little bit of rain and Lord, we wouldn't mind being blessed with a little bit more. But we're grateful for your goodness. Lord, we're entering into a celebration and it starts sort of in tonight as we celebrate freedom, as we gather together. But Lord, in this week to come, we just ask that you give our entire country some wisdom to reach across and care about those people who call themselves Americans. And no matter what they fight for or believe in, Lord, we have common interests and goals and history and wonder that you've given us that we need to celebrate. Lord, just let us turn it loose and celebrate the United States of America. We ask that you would bless this country and bring it back together. And Lord, help us to remember the principles that are important that gave us this place. Lord, with that, we ask that you bless those who work for our government in Walnut Grove, for all that they do, and for the leaders who lead this place under the banner of freedom, Lord. We celebrate that too. And we ask that you give special wisdom to this council as they meet tonight and bless them on everything that they're doing on that agenda. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
And pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and do the roll call. As you can see, we have 2 missing council members tonight. We do have a quorum, so that is why we are here and continuing to hold the meeting. One of our council members tested positive for COVID, so she wanted to stay home, watching out for the safety of everybody else. And she is with us online. Maxine, can you hear us?
I do.
Can you turn on your microphone?
I just turned it on.
Is it turned on? I'm going, you can see it might be turned on. That's something we need to do is get speaker.
Hold on 1 second, Maxine.
Thank you.
Use the volume for the TV. The remote.
Where's
The remote.
Test, test, test.
On the side.
it's up?
Maxine.
Test, test, test.
Oh,
Hello.
hi, we can hear you.
Thank you for staying home, Maxine. We all appreciate it.
You're welcome. I hope nobody else gets this from anything,
I believe, or possibly before, yeah.
possibly before.
Miss Pilgrim is away on vacation, and so that's why she is not here tonight. But we'll go ahead and get going. I'd like to go ahead and, before I ask for a motion on the agenda, I realize that I have loaded the agenda with way too many things and way too many big discussions. So what we're going to do in an effort to keep the meeting at a reasonable rate, and because these things are not things that are absolutely pressing, I'm going to remove number 3, 4, and 5 off of the agenda, and you will see them come up in either July or in August on the work session. And with that being said, may I have a motion on the agenda, please?
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda. Removing under new business 3, 4, and 5.
Is there a second?
Again.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Hi.
Three in favor. Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead on to old business, and this is the flood application WGRZ 2401, and it's a presentation. And I think we're going to have Joe come up first and give us a synopsis and his recommendations, and then we'll go ahead and hear from the applicant.
I have a question for Tony first. I do have to recuse myself from this matter, but I would like to stay in the room to hear it. I will not be voting on it though.
That would be a little bit unusual. I mean, the normal recusal is that you remove yourself from, the room. And the reason for that is it's just influence. It's just, if you have an interest and other council members don't want to offend you, they may not criticize or ask questions in the same way they would. So the normal process of recusal is if you remove yourself from the room and you do not participate in. We're not in a voting meeting. This is a work session. And so it's not like even the announcement of that is called for at this point. It's just informational.
Okay.
And so.
Questions still then?
I don't think that. I think to participate in it would probably not be a good idea. And the reason is your question. I ask a lot of questions in my business, and usually I'm trying to advocate a position when I'm asking a question. It's just the nature of it. So I would recuse myself, but I think removing yourself is probably not required for a work session, but for the actual meeting, you would have to leave.
I don't know if y'all have, I know it was in your packet, but I have extra copies. Y'all printed it out and used. Y'all have these, it's the same thing as in the packet. I just let you know that.
Yep.
Okay, well, then I'll save those for later.
Okay.
I'll give a copy to the applicant because it's got the planning commission report attached to it. I'll be generous. Mayor and council, the city received an application for a piece of property at tax parcel WDO 126, part of it. Applicant with Bowman Consulting. The owner is Benchmark Excavating, which and it's styled as case WGRZ 2401. Public hearing was advertised and a notice was placed in the paper and on the property. And the planning commission held a public hearing on June 18th. What you got in your packet was the top sheet, the top two sheets of the planning commission report, which sort of is just a summary of action taken with conditions that were recommended by the planning commission. And attached to that was the rezoning analysis that was prepared for record keeping purposes and to sort of give an overview of the project. But just to help out, I know many of you were present for that meeting, but just to kind of go over it again for the benefit of all, the applicant proposes to rezone 16.26 acres on Walnut Grove Parkway from AG to PUD for a mixed-use development with a total of 8 buildings, combination of residential and office, restaurant, retail. And I know the applicant has a nice presentation and has kind of the layout of the building. I'm sure they can go over that again, and we'll go over that at your business meeting. But so we did analysis of the report, presented our findings to planning commission. The planning commission took had several people speak in favor of it, had nobody speak in opposition to it. After a good bit of discussion, the planning commission voted to recommend to you all approval of the rezoning with 12 conditions that were in the staff report. I've probably had a chance to read those. I can read those out if you wish, or if you have any specific questions from the staff on the proposal, I certainly can answer those. The biggest issues, realistically, council, is traffic and sewer. The traffic analysis provided by the applicant showed that the development itself wouldn't generate any traffic beyond the Walnut Grove Parkway's ability to handle. It didn't need any additional decel lanes. The issue is going to be at either intersection, as the previous traffic study presented by the Kitty Park case showed. So that's gonna have to be addressed down the road, no matter what, because of the growth of the parkway and surrounding. And as you all are aware, currently the city's, has 600 gallons per day of sewer capacity that's it's not spoken for. And the funding application and with GFA, it gets you the funding, which is rocking right along, by the way. Kimberly saved the day Tuesday with some timely research. And that one had 50,000 gallons. The original sewer estimates provided by Bowman had a much higher figure, and I think when they redid their residential numbers, I was able to come up with around 22,000 gallons a day. I don't know if that factors in any restaurant space, so they can provide shed some light in on that. But in any event, if that was built out, if this project was rezoned and they were able to get 22,000 capacity, that's about 44% of your expansion. So that's just something. But right now, we all are aware that it's not there. So that's just a factor for y'all when you're making decisions, knowing that the sewer would be available, in about 18 to 20 months after construction, after the project was let for bid. So there's timing in that and other factors. But we felt that given the fact that Cupid Clark's project was approved by a previous council, and the fact that the applicant's proposal had a good mixture of uses, and the impacts could be managed, that we felt like there was any reason for it not to be approved. But we've included a bunch of changes, a bunch of conditions, just trying to tie everything down in case council approved it. So that the council would have a lot of say so in the final design, and that a development agreement would be put in place so there was a chance to sit back down and kind of make sure everybody was clear on things before it moved forward into permitting. So with that, I'll answer his questions. I know the applicant's here, and Lee wanted an opportunity to kind of give you a refresh of their proposal.
Just for new council members and
Yes.
some of us who would like to be refreshed.
Mhm.
This application here is to go from AG to PUD.
Correct.
All architectural, the look, the actual plans, everything else will then come again for approval, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
And that's how it can be structured different ways. Because you don't have an extensive staff and a planner, an architect on staff. We've sort of geared it to where any applicant would come back who has these conditions and bring their proposal back to you all.
Right.
And have you have a chance to discuss it and then make final approval, and that could be done informally initially in another work session setting, and then approval would need to be a business meeting. Yes. Because they need to comply with the downtown overlay district requirements, but also because of it's an opportunity for you all to have some input and work together to get a product that would be kind of fits into y'all's vision, since we don't have defined design guidelines yet of what you want to see the town center to be. And eventually, if you have those, then it would be very easy to go, this is what we want, submit it. If it complies, it's more of it becomes more of a permitting exercise. I just don't, you all aren't there yet.
Right.
And that's okay.
exactly,
Most places, small places are on.
right.
But yes, that would be, still would maintain control over that before any permit is granted.
So basically we're looking at this and saying, yes, this is a good thing for the city, or no, this is not a good thing for the city.
Correct. Just to help out too, is that it'll come back up at your business meeting. A public hearing's been held, but there'll be another opportunity for them to present and for people to speak in favor or in opposition of it. You all ask questions. You all can, discuss it with each other. You all, someone feels led to make a motion in favor or against it, and it's, treat it like another business item.
Okay.
Unless the esteemed city attorney sees slightly differently, but that's been normal. But this is a discussion, a chance to have some informal discussion with the applicant, anyone else, but, no action could be taken on it until after you brought it up in a regular meeting.
Right. Okay. Right. Just want to make sure everybody's on the same page of what we're looking at and questions that can be asked or any kind of question.
I have a question for Joe.
Go ahead.
On this document from the planning commission report, number 7 says developer to phase development into sufficient phases whereby sewer demand does not exceed 11,000 gallons per day. And you just said you're estimating the sewer to be 23,000 gallons per day. Is that?
This is, that was my understanding at the
Okay.
moment. Now these are recommended, but here's the other good thing about council, since y'all will have the final say. And this happened in the Kippy Park, we actually tweaked some of the conditions, is those can be adjusted
Okay.
as needed. If you all don't agree with that, you all want to change it,
And this estimate of 23,000 gallons per day does not include the restaurants, or it does include the restaurant?
Well, I'm-
Potential for a restaurant.
I'm going to ask the applicant
Okay.
who is here to kind of elaborate on that.
Okay.
They provided sewer calculations to us,
Gotcha.
and it was for like 200 residential units, and it was like 70,000 gallons, 69,000. But their actual proposal that was presented showed 40 residential units, and
Right.
then the other square footage of it. But I also know that restaurants use more sewer than, a store.
Right. It's
So
like
it's just-
50,000 square feet even
Correct.
building, so.
And one thing that would be good to get, to make sure of is that we get maybe an updated idea of their sewer
Yeah.
demand, if that's changed from.
I just.
And Chris, I'm sure would be more than happy to provide that. But, and that's a good question, and that number could be, my whole point of putting that in there was that, and I don't think it, because of the market economy, they would do is try to come in and do it all at once.
They're
Because,
doing in phase.
but what do you all, if you choose, how you choose to act on this, have the ability to go in and with a development agreement and make, work together to reserve capacity for them, which, and then they would know they would have it, which is what people have been asking for you all about. And then they just develop it and, as they go along, because I don't think their vision is from their previous presentations to try to do it all at once. That's most, they're kind of building and roll.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
You all.
Chris, would you like to go? Thank you.
I'll just address the high number of this provisional. We had not, the concept plan, the previous, elected official had asked us to give the, while we were doing the office buildings. So we didn't know what this concept plan was gonna look like, and I had to put a single line on a piece of paper in it. So we were being real aggressive on it. And so Joe was right. If we use 350 gallons per residential unit is probably what I usually do. We could provide another calculation for that for the 40, and we've gone down to 40 units. 79 square, 79,200 square feet residential, 40 units. Restaurants, we're going to have to let the market decide kind of what is the demand. And usually you have a couple of grease traps, 2,500 gallon grease traps, and that kind of sets how much food you'll use. That they're, I don't think the whole thing, every retail square foot is going to be restaurants. I think you'll find a lot of OT for retail type of stuff, and maybe some restaurants, offices, hopefully. That sort of thing, but the market's going to really have to dictate what we're doing there. I didn't bring any boards tonight or anything. I do have thumb drive. Do we want to look at anything? The architecture itself is something that we put together, and the perspective drawing that we've got. Margaret Beatty, the architect at LTV, just wanted to indicate what kind of materials we're going to look at. So when we submit to you a building permit, we'll have a lot of details in that. At this point, in the entitlement, you don't want to spend a lot of time and money. Matt doesn't want to spend doing architectural plans that could get denied. So what Margaret has done is very good elevations, and she does some really good perspectives, so you can know. And it's probably a little really similar to what we've presented at the planning commission, the colors. We went through a lot of thoughts about lighting, a lot of thoughts about the brick, the pavers that match the building, the lighting. We put a lot of thought into the design conceptually, but, we'll have to come back. So, do we come back, with the LDP as well, for public hearing as well, or is it just the building permits? Landscape plan?
No, the current council is indicated they're an LDP, they would like to see the plans that they've been fleshed out.
No problem.
And have a chance to have a conversation before our final permits are issued. So there would, yes, you would come back. I would say that a lot of the architectural discussions, if council is amenable and approves the application, there would need to be some discussions regarding the development agreement. And I think a lot of that would get worked out, and then possibly that final package would be presented for approval sometime after you've got your land disturbance drawings done, or you get a permit. And it could be, council could review it, could consider it, and, change it, and can approve it before you get too far down the path on the building.
I can say about when we get to the land service permit, we've already designed an underground detention system. We know that there's not going to be an open pond. We did that because they're modular. The office buildings to this are all connected together. But we engineered everything together already, so I already know what the school market is going to look like. You're not going to have an open pond. It's a mosquito pond. So Matt thought the square footage is more valuable above ground use for parking and buildings and pedestrian access stuff. But I'll be glad to put the site plan up and kind of go through. Yes, still have it. If I have mine. Sorry, I didn't realize. We were going to do a full presentation, but I'd like the chance anytime I can to show what we have. Sorry there. Oh. You go into each building by building that's on there. I don't know if you probably here can't see each buildings. But we have buildings A through G. Some buildings are going to be 3 stories, some are going to be 2 stories. And I emailed each of you the floor plans and how they work together, and how the 3-story floor plans work and the 2-story floor. The townhomes will be 1 story, and then some of them will be a 2-story. There's premium units that are going to be on the corners, which are your C units. Those are going to be the nicest. Be 2 floors and have the most square footage. But we kind of spread that out. Try to balance the market. I think the architect did a really good job illustrating in a 3D sense how each of these buildings are going to look stacked, especially these here that have the residential side of it. This made a lot of sense to me when I saw it. So these are definitely going to be the premium units along the corners on the C's and the C1s and C2s.
And then some of those are going to be 2 stories.
Yeah, we'll have internal stairs, upstairs, downstairs. The floor plan really is they did a good job on showing how the bedrooms work. C1s and C2s are going to be really nice. But there's going to be some small ones, the A3s and the A1s and A2s are going to be in a price range that, it'll be affordable. So I think this is going to be a good.
Do you have an estimation of what affordable is?
Really, on real estate agent. I don't know what per square foot that would happen. I mean, it's probably a way to pull the something. I don't know if there's anything similar. on the road, you can pull a comp off of, but
Yes.
there's nothing like this.
No, there's none. It's very important to us that there is some affordable housing within the city of Walnut Grove.
Just the, story, you know, they're 1,200 square foot, 2 bedrooms. And so we got 7 of those on building B. And then then you've got 3 bedrooms, 2,400 square foot, and 11 units on building C for 7. So we got a diversity of, 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms. So we tried to equal it out. So, a young person starting out could afford it as well.
Okay.
But really, the approach is pedestrian oriented. That we wanted to make sure that we have corridors laid throughout the site plan that leads to the central. This was really the key to the design, was getting everybody out on the plazas areas. And then outdoor dining space. I've got like 20 foot before I even get to the pedestrian corridors to have seating and outdoor all around this. Up here is also an opportunity as well. This is a flex building. We have some pedestrian access, but most of the activity will be inside the building itself, or even like Margaret showed, is having outdoor up on the rooftops like that. But everything leads into this central area that could be flexible. This could be many different things, depending on what time of year it is, We could think about having something like a permanent fountain, but that's more of a municipal issue. We would like to be more flexible on this one and have the ability to move things in and out of it, but define it with brickwork and pavers. So we will put a lot of thought into that. What kind of material it's going to look like. Took inspiration from places that have already built. And the landscape architects, even had some patterns picked out, and you'll see this in the LDP when it gets to us. So we're put a lot of thought into it. The design team, I think, has done a really good job, and we want to create something special. And I'm proud of it. Architecture.
The residential units, are they going to be rented or owned or a combination of both?
I don't know. Matt,
I don't know the answer.
see what market is. I mean, you could do a condo style ownership above. Financing would probably be a little difficult. The banks probably don't like the idea of being above retail, but I think it could be done. It's just a matter of getting there and seeing what the demand is. And I'm sure selling condo units would be something just as well. I don't think the idea that Matt has is this is a strictly build to rent development. And as far as the development agreement goes, that's something that this man we'll have to have some of this. Matt is going to, in my letter of intent, Matt gave me the timelines of when each are going to be built. It's the 3rd paragraph of the letter of intent. So he's got starting in 2025, 6, and then build out the phases. So I tried to give what building is going to be first. And the owner anticipates development in stages. Ideally, the first building would be building G, that is nearest to the existing roundabout, and would like to begin construction in early summer of 2025. So this time next year. The second building would be building A, that's potentially the roof of the flex space for events. So the two biggest buildings along Walnut Grove Parkway. And then we start getting into the retail space. So the residential retail buildings. That's where the demand of the sewer is going to be mostly. I think the main building by the roundabout is going to be mostly retail, and maybe 1 restaurant or 2 restaurants on the ends where they'll have some outdoor dining. Like Margaret's. So they get the early beginning that these areas here and here will probably be anchored by restaurants, but the rest I would see probably retail, offices maybe. But this is definitely going to be prime real estate, for the view. And then that'll be the last phase, getting into the, retail residential side of it.
What is the timeline for the last phase?
See, the final stage that will be constructed is the center of the town center, the plaza area, planned for late summer of 2026. Year by year. We're here now doing the entitlement work, talking about the design and conceptual. That gives us time after we hopefully get approval to develop architectural plans, land development permit plans, engineering, get that through, and then man, be ready to start, pushing dirt and building. Back in front of you guys with the head search permit and building architectural plans.
John, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Chris, but if you came out.
Yeah.
The amount of parking in the center. I know that there is something that states that we have to have a certain number of parking spaces for shops, correct?
Correct.
Is that malleable? Can we look at that and say maybe we don't need that many parking spaces and be able to put something else in there, in that area?
I think the fact that it's a PUD gives you all a lot of wiggle room. And not everybody's a big fan of acres and acres of parking for lots of reasons. I think that could be discussed. If either there's in exchange for possibly reducing the required parking, you might trade off something else. That could be done also during the discussions with the development agreement if it's approved, to kind of change it. The one thing you as any other jurisdiction wouldn't want to do is to say, oh, we don't do all the parking, and then you got parking on Parkway.
Right.
But, and you really won't know until it gets fleshed out. And one thing so that's the answer is yes, you have, one thing about a PUD is if this gets approved by council, the documents they've submitted and their drawings sort of become the guide for development, and anything within that final document they can do with just, but if they come in and suddenly they decide market changes, they want to change their concept, we would treat that like a rezoning change of conditions, and they have to come back, which is how we set up the two previous PUDs. Another thing I didn't mention previously, but was discussed with the applicant and was brought up in their presentation is that roadway that is closest to the roundabout, they've got it set up design-wise to, and we've conditioned it to be at the top to be eventually to connect the road back to the Grove Park. I mean, if they agreed to build, they would build it to road standards and not just driveways. And then other property owners would have to, or the city, however, be able to connect it back to the side of the park. But it would be set up down the road to, which would, if it was once it was in place, get people from the park to here to go get ice cream or whichever without having to get on 81, which would help us long-term things. The nice thing about PUDs is you can get a lot of it set up and how you want it and get it sort of binding upon all parties. And then there's still flexibility for down the road if things change, but then also because it's still sort of a different creature, and their time frame is great. It may take that much time. It may take another 3 or 4 years. We don't know. They don't know, but there's a lot of these types of buildings. There's one in Pooler, as a matter of fact, out there down there outside of Savannah that was set up similar to this, called Godfrey Station. And then actually next to the Marriott Riverfront, downriver from Savannah, they've set up, there's those 5-story buildings. And they had a whole central plaza Thursday night down there, and there was a concert out there. They had a great little public space, so a lot of folks want this type of development.
Yeah, that Central Plaza is big enough to set up a temporary stage and have concerts. People, restaurants, outdoor dining and having that entertainment. And, we look forward to it, but I'll go back to the parking. I'm actually, in part of the request is to allow us to do some shared parking for the office development to the north and west of this. Because right now, I'm even asking for, based on code, I calculated parking and I'm still short 92 spaces. And so what I propose to do, the office buildings will be vacated whenever these are being used. So that could be our overflow parking. I could reduce, I'm at 18% reduction is required by code right now. Under my site notice number 6, I provided all the counts that are required by code. If we increase that, then I could increase the size of that central plaza. I can increase the, maybe even another one. I could do a lot with less parking. So if you're trying to talk me into reducing parking, we have more flex space in the office. I'll take full advantage of that. And even redesign some of this so we got even more outdoor pedestrian stuff. So if that's a consideration, right now I'm asking for a variance for 18% to be shared. That could be increased. And that helps out with impervious surface. That helps with reflective heat and summertime off of that asphalt. And we're trying to hide the parking the best we can by putting it centrally inside there, but in the back of the other ones, and not really put it on the street for off-street parking. But yeah, it's definitely a construction cost. There's asphalt, there's curb and gutter, and then everything underneath the asphalt. So I'm sure if we reduce the parking some more, I can use that space better.
It's just a very large area of parking,
It is.
and that kind of takes away from, I think, what the feel of what everybody's looking for in downtown. So if that's something we can look at and be shared parking. With that in mind, is there any way to get from you guys an overall view of this development and the upper development, the connection of roads?
Yeah.
The whole look of what you're looking at, so we can have a real idea.
I had that drawing ready. I just did, I don't have it as part of this
That's
presentation.
okay.
But I'll bring that in. I'll make sure during the,
Okay.
hearing, we got that. You can see a little piece of it here. So I've got, this is part of the parking for that one building that we said it could have a little bit of retail, but the rest of the stuff is up here. So I've got the connection from here to get out
Right.
and then from here to get out. So 2 places for everybody that has, a business or working in one of those office buildings. When we do this, and then possibly if they want to go to the park, we want to stop here and let, if Walton County wants to come in and cross that street, connect here, welcome to it. I mean, but we want to give them a place to connect to us. Don't really want us to go through the national permit, requirement, nationwide permit to get that crossing. That environmental is expensive.
Have you all had any discussions with Walton County and possibly being able to connect to that?
I have not, I haven't talked with their transportation department, but if we, I thought we can. But that would probably be a discussion when we get into the LDP stage of it. I don't know, Joe, would this be considered a city road if it starts and ends inside the city?
Well, right now it's a driveway, but if it was set up down the road to be dead, if something council wanted to take on like responsibility dedicated to the city street, have to be platted as such. But, it would just need to be, those discussions would need to be had. I was just trying to look and see what else is between, on the other side of the creek, that's the park property, is there an intervening piece?
It's not part of the property.
Yeah, the park property is right here, but there's a property line right here for this one.
Yeah.
This guy, and then another property line right here. So this area is where the crossing would have to happen. But we had thought all along that this would be either a private road or we would have, utility easement, utility access easement, or right of way. Whatever we wanted to do, we could still have it there. I don't want to treat it as drive, I want to treat that as a street, because it's part of the roundabout. You're coming up, so that's, from the beginning, we think of this as a street.
I would just think that, how that design and the permitting part of that, if it moved forward, would just be factored in, that there would be sufficient right of way.
Yeah.
Whether it was dedicated currently or down the road, right now it could be utility and access easements. And then have it set up to where the city didn't want to receive it as a public road, that we would, if you follow your processes as you would a subdivision street or a commercial street, that you could just have it, that way you be sure what's in there. Of course, also looking at it, you want to make sure that you have the ability down the road to maintain, to have that nice either stamped concrete or brick paver entrance feature, that you all have the ability to maintain it down the road. And that may change, in their design, but, having it set up now, if it was done that way, would be much better than trying to go in later and, having to do something afterwards. There was something in the wrong spot that required expenditure of funds to move or to reroute.
Is that where the sewer line runs?
It is, yes, it runs along there, but it is to the east of that. So they're designing, they're avoiding the sewer, which was we.
Sewer goes right along the creek. Yeah.
It's off.
It's off because the sewer runs along the creek for the most part. And their design, if they had shown it in the sewer, we would ask them to move it. So
Okay.
they've just gone ahead and saved us.
Okay.
Water main is coming up, Walker Parkway from the south up to the north under the permit for the, office buildings. And we've gotten approval from Walnut County to move that. We've submitted to them, so we've gotten permission. So we'll have a fire hydrant that's gonna be, we're gonna terminate with a fire hydrant somewhere around here. And then we're gonna run our water mains up to this service building. So we've almost got that approved. But I'll bring an overall picture. I've got one illustrated and rendered, so it does show the relationship. So that's a good point.
Do any of your residential buildings have elevators? Or all walk up?
These are all walk-ups as far as, Margaret shows on the floor plan, she shows those being stairs up there. Now, I'm not an architect, so I don't know if we can get up to the 3rd floor, then you have to have something, an elevator. I don't think so. Over in, Swanee Town Center, they have 3-story buildings in residential. I don't think they have elevators in there.
Are you familiar with this one?
Yeah.
I just learned about that this week.
Yeah.
You know what they've done?
Yeah, our office is right behind that, town center, so.
What about in these shopping areas? Is there elevator access there for ADA? Or
They're probably, that's almost, building G that you're referring to, that's on some heavy, the grade drops from top to bottom, so when you're looking at the elevation at the street, by the, this will be 1 story higher than coming into the bottom. And so you're almost looking at a basement situation on G where you walk it out top, and it may be even where they don't have connection from the bottom floor to the top. You enter here to go to those, you enter here to go to the top floor. So it's really a matter of architecture on that to see it.
But
I don't think you
there's a stairwell in the center, but anybody who's in a wheelchair has ADA access. In order to access the top, they would have to go through the back and access
Yeah,
the
you
bottom.
give them access, equal access from the top and equal access to the bottom. So you don't necessarily have to have a.
Okay.
But I'm not an architect either. It would be good to ask Margaret that when we
Okay.
to that.
Just making sure we're thinking about everybody. Okay.
Yeah, well, we'll have to go through fire review and
Yeah.
make sure they can set it on video goes.
Okay. Regarding the rent versus sell, when it comes to this type of thing, is that up to the developer, Joe? They get to decide that, or we as a city can say we're not looking for apartments?
I think that that's a condition. I would also, I don't know if, I think you could have stated this preference of the council for
Mhm.
condos. I mean, you might could do that. I don't know if they disagreed and decided to say that was a condition they didn't agree to, and we can discuss it before it's feasible. That might be a dirty question, but it would be, I mean, if it's your preference, I think you could state that as such.
There's also a way around that where you could always have covenants that go with apartments, if that is a discussion, but is that something a city can do or cannot do?
You can compel it by condition.
Okay. Okay. I don't know what the. Yeah, I don't know what the council, I'm just asking what if questions, that's all I'm doing. Let's see here. Traffic. I'm concerned that once it's all built out, it states in, and I don't have a traffic report. I just have your condition.
Yeah, I sent y'all a Google Drive link with the report.
Okay,
I want to save some trees. So, I mean, that is available if
okay.
you,
I'll go back and look at it. I'm looking at your condition. But it's concerning to me that when the concept is built out, the entry and exit of the parkway will be at the least desirable rate of traffic. That's concerning to me that we're gonna have backups and accidents and even more so than what we have now. What is something that we can do about that? Is that something we can work with the developer with, to talk with DOT? Is that something that we can ask the developers to do? How does that all, what would you recommend for that, Doug?
well, I think the way that their traffic study was structured was to be used as, essentially data to go and talk to GDOT about putting a signal.
Okay,
Essentially, you have to meet certain warrant conditions before GDOT will approve a signal location. And to date, the conditions aren't there.
mhm,
Now, in other jurisdictions, I've also seen where developers have contributed funds towards the signal. They've escrowed money, and then other developers may do some to help defray the cost of signals because they are expensive. I would also think that, I don't know this, that with the Guthrie Cemetery Road intersection with the park is, their plans call for a signal.
it does.
So there'll be a signal there, which is good. So that would also be something to be discussed, and the key would be asking one developer to pay the entire cost, because there's going to be other developments along
Sure.
the parkway that would also benefit by having signalized. Because you're right, and they were real clear that it's going to create LOS, F, and D at build out, and it's mainly trying to turn in and out of there.
Right.
And, anyone who's been on there during rush, I mean, even if there's a challenge getting out of there.
Even if it's a roundabout that's put in place, something along those lines. Okay,
Well, so yes, I think it's worth continuing to discuss. I think it's worth discussing again on the 11th. You could also make that a part of the development agreement, to have some language in there about, contribution towards signal. I know that from the developer standpoint, they would want to know how much and when. And that's something that should be discussed. Also, that wasn't specifically discussed with the previous PUD across the street.
right.
But also, they have also not come forward with trying to work on the project. So
Right.
also a development agreement with the condition of that rezoning. So there would be an opportunity
Yes,
there for those discussions.
and to share.
Yes, our traffic engineers, when they put it together, are looking at what we're proposing. And so the level of service, for what we're proposing, on itself alone doesn't decrease, because the level of service would drop for what it already is. Higher, but it does say in the conclusion that over time, it will drop the level of service as more developments happens. In other words, something's got to happen to those two determines at some point. And we have some data that could go with other data that shows that DDOT needs to put something in there. You know, this traffic study, the next traffic study, the next traffic study, you have a cumulative amount of data where you do condition that for a light.
How many parking spaces total were in this?
What I've got right now on this is, required parking is 544, and I'm providing 432, which is which is 92 parking spaces short than what code requires. Sometimes codes to me are a little, I wish that there would be more of a minimum and maximum on parking codes. So minimum, you got to provide this, but you can only have a maximum of this. And then you can reduce down. In this case, your code is one space per every 200 square foot of retail, and then 2 spaces for every unit.
Yeah.
And so some of these, probably the smaller townhome units is probably going to be a single person. That's one vehicle. So, and then the residential will be, if they do park here, that'd be great. But, during the day, they'll be gone. I don't see a time where it would be all these parking spaces would be used to like that.
Unless a really great concert.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It'd be,
Mayor, I would say also that's on my mental list of things for us to discuss when we get, when we retool the zoning ordinances to put in max min to give. I know a lot of jurisdictions we work with have got started going to that, and maybe it's a little bit more.
It seems like it's more of an impediment than a encouragement to developers. It really pigeonholes them to reducing the amount of area they can use for actual shops or residential or whatever.
The added news is, Chris referred to impervious surface and stormwater management and other factors. And there are ways to work around that with, pervious pavers and, but at the same time, unless the city really hasn't seen anything. I mean, the biggest thing in the city to come recently has been the Grove and Dollar General. I mean, there's not a lot of new parking where you put something of this scale. Yes, there's going to be, it's hard to miss
I've been talking all night, so if you have any questions, please.
You're asking them for me.
I could envision having this whole area as another gathering space.
Why not another building?
Building in a
Yeah.
gathering space would be great.
So another building's gonna add more parking.
Not if it's a certain type of building.
Yeah.
It's more like,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, we can. Okay.
Yeah, I'll be glad to supplement, and in fact, I can email everybody the overall plan that shows the relationship between the two, even before the meeting, and if there's any questions, please feel free, you've got my contact. Question, let me know, I'd be glad to get back to you and give you supplemental documents. Thanks for letting us present this to you.
I think it's important, one of the things we learned about, and it was reiterated at convention, was partnerships between the city and developers. And I think we all truly feel that we will be partners in this and making sure that it's the best development for the citizens and is what you guys can do and what our hopes are for the citizens. And let's just move forward with that in the back of our minds and do the best that we can for the citizens.
I always think that it's better anywhere that I go if it's not an adversarial.
Absolutely.
So, we'd like to have partners, really like helping Joe,
Mhm.
being for you guys as well, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think of anything like that?
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And I'll work on resending a new updated link or so with or sending that back out. If you all want printed copies of things before the next meeting, just feel, I mean, I'll have those available.
I would like the updated sewer capacity. Chris, if you have, got to work
I'll
on
run them. I got a spreadsheet I can run everything through.
that. Great. Thank you.
Maxine, do
Maxine, do you have any questions?
I had one, but Stephanie asked it. So thank you.
Good. Okay. If there are no more questions, we are going to go ahead and move on the agenda. And the proposal of city manager administrator, review and discussion. I sent to every member of council, a survey questionnaire to help us decide or look at or figure out and see if we really need an administrator. And after today, I can assure you we do. It is, I'm just curious. Have you guys looked at the questionnaire?
Yeah. Yes.
Maxine? You're on mute again.
Yes, I looked at it.
Okay, all right. With that, I also attached a, community affairs municipal wage and salary survey for city administrators and city managers. And I also put in their description of what a city manager administrator does. Basically, they direct and coordinate administration of city government in accordance with policies determined by city council or otherwise authorized elected officials, appoints department heads and staff as provided by local ordinance, prepares annual budget, submits estimates to authorized elected officials for approval. Now, as a strong mayor city right now, the city administrator would come in, I would work closely with them along with council. And Tony, would you share with us what would be the role of city administrator as it compares to what the city mayor does right now in a strong mayor city?
It's delegated responsibility, delegated duties.
Okay.
Can't change those, your description in terms of appointment. You could certainly let the administrator have a role like that and just agree, but it takes your authority to really do those things.
Okay.
If to change that would be a city manager, which you have some descriptions of in your charter too. But I wouldn't really flip over into a city manager form without changing
Absolutely.
the authority of the mayor.
Yeah.
So this is, they really work underneath the mayor. He remains the chief executive and will have as much responsibility as the mayor sees to.
Okay, thank you. And, you know, that's something we can look at in the future is when we look at the charter. If we find that we need to go into more of a city manager role and become a weak mayor council, that's something we can look at in the future. But as we move towards bringing on somebody else in this type of a position, I think it's a good idea to bring them in and keep them the strong mayor, city administrator, working with council and kind of working out all of those kinks to see what it is we need and what we don't need and lighten the load. Lighten the load. And also it will cut down on the expenses that we have to do with outside experts, which is something we have looked at doing also. So I'm going to, at this point, open it up for discussion. If you guys have any thoughts, if you would like to make any comments. I did bring along in the city charter where it does allow for a city manager, kind of. But I think going in the city administrator direction is the best way to go right now.
So would this require a charter change if we were to hire an administrator or not?
It is not an administrator. It's a known form. It's underneath the mayor. That's why, we talked about it in terms of the mayor's authority doesn't change.
Okay.
Because the mayor's authority doesn't change, the form of government doesn't change. You use the word administrator to describe that person. They report to the mayor.
So an administrator could enter into contracts on behalf of the mayor with other organizations or cities.
Require some authority from council,
Okay.
expand to give them those powers, but they certainly could. You could give them that authority.
What about, hiring, firing?
It would still, that would still ultimately be to the mayor's. Now, she could delegate that responsibility and then they would have an appellate right to her. Couldn't take that away, but then, it could certainly be given.
And budget writing would still be retained with the mayor.
It would be, but administrator could do the whole thing, mayor could take a peek at it, say, and that's probably the time savings part of it. What you're getting is not, I hate to be a party pooper, but administrators, create other things for mayor and council to look at.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
It's not really, it's a shifting of responsibility to somebody who is really, has a career in
Right.
municipal government.
Right.
And so you get professional drive, probably not at the level that you're looking at tonight with planning and zoning. You get it at budget, policy, everyday operations, somebody to be there to oversee staff. You get real professionalism at that level. And the responsibilities don't get less, they just shift to a different level that's more legislative.
That was the hard time I was having, seeing between the administrator and manager. I'm like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I get it. Thank you.
You guys have any other questions or thoughts? Do you?
I think that it is, it would be beneficial to the city to have a city administrator, manager, somebody that has a career doing this in the long run, depending on what their expertise is, I guess they could replace their salary, with certain things, just like knowledge about grants. There was a city manager in Savannah. He had a city of 2,300 in, maybe, no, it wasn't Washington. Can't think of it right now. But he had the foresight to realize that there is a plant 3 miles outside of the city that's been closed for 20 years. And they had a 1 million gallon per day sewer plant running in 9 months. And
I haven't built it.
without having to build it, there's you just don't know what you don't know. And I think it's important to have somebody that has a career, doing this type of activities.
I agree with you. I think we're getting to a point where bringing on a city administrator who has education, who has been educated in this field and who has experience and expertise. Don't look to bring on somebody who is, fresh out of college. Somebody who we can afford, but somebody who is able to bring that expertise and professionalism to the city. We have quite a bit of work to do to get ready for the growth that's going to be coming.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we have a little bit of time right now as we wait for the sewer to make it happen. And this is, I think, the perfect time to do it.
I think it's extremely prudent on our part to do it now rather than later. That way, when this growth does happen, and we need that expert advice and that finesse and that fine
Right.
oversight, we're gonna have it. Because I mean, I've watched you for the last 6 months, Mayor, and you have worked your little fingers to the bone.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea to be proactive rather than reactive.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Maxine?
Okay, I also think that the advantage to a city administrator is that we're also creating some consistency at that level, which as we have different transitions, whether it's council or mayors or, if there should be any type of change in the employment status, that aids in that benefit where there's much more consistency, which avoids a lot of extra effort and funds.
It's a very good point, Maxine. You're right.
Mayor, may I offer
Absolutely.
some input? My community has a city administrator. We've had one for 10 years. And we wrote an ordinance that outlines the administrator's duties. And then, we certainly make that available. Our attorney did it. And it was used as a guide to interview and actually hire. And then we amended our charter after we got them on board. And we redefined a few things, but the city administrator was the budget officer, but the budget and the way the charter written is the city administrator prepares it with the input of the mayor, and then it's presented to council. And then there's tons of duties that the administrator has. Every city may use theirs a little differently, but what I found is that the administrator is able to go and take care of the day-to-day things. And I talk to our administrator 3 or 4 times a day sometimes. A lot of it's, hey, you need to know this or this, but there's somebody there that can field all these questions and manage projects and just keep track of all the different, and then it was real clear in our charter that the council is the policy forming legislative body, as Tony alluded to, is the mayor is the chief advocate of policy, and I end up doing a lot of that for our community. But I don't know, I could not do what you do here and try to work full time because there's just so much of that. So the administrator there handles all the staff, handles all the little things, and is also the chief complaint officer too.
Yeah.
Things go up there, and then that way it also is a buffer with staff too, from both ways. Because they become the advocate for staff to council on matters, like when we had July the 5th off, which is my latest mayoral. But it's important because I don't know how we couldn't do it without it. We just, and we're about the same size. We have a few more services, but and just the thinking ahead part, that's the other thing that can help you all is that strategic planning for down the road to get the right fit.
Right.
And it's been well worth the investment of time because a lot of our staff, in our case, was a little resistant. Just because they've not been one, but we and staff with multiple departments, having a police department and having a public works department, they've had to get used to having a boss. And council used to have, each council member had their own department to kind of be the liaison with, and I did away with that because that's why you have and that's been council sort of had to get used to that. And it takes a while, but it would be, if y'all decide to do that, it would be well worth the investment. You get because they're so helpful and just, just collecting all this and making sure you get all this information and working through some of it. And it was free your existing staff up to handle AP, AR, customer complaints, all those sorts of things. And then the administrator can help you as council be the advocate with the county, with other jurisdictions. So that's
Thank you.
my experience in that. And we pay around 70-ish. 70, and we just going to provide them with a vehicle this year, just because they've been driving a beat up police car, and it's just not fair to that, because they do a lot of go to chamber and go to things on behalf of we just got very lucky with Larry. And
Does he live close by to you?
he lives in the next town over. He was close by. We interviewed 5 or 6 people. Several of them were professional managers. And we kind of saw the ones that might look at as a stepping stone, but Larry was in Gordon College in administration, and he wanted a career change. He brought all that experience, and he financially he's gotten us in a much better financial position, and we're so very thankful for that.
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do in the city. It's, we're getting there, we're working on it, but we do need that professionalism to come in and the expertise, in my opinion. I do have plans for having a panel interviews with other city, a mayor, a couple of, managers or administrators, the city clerk, and having that kind of a panel interview, review of, applications. If we go ahead and vote this and, interviews, and moving forward that way, so we have experts who are interviewing and know what a city administrator needs to look like. So that is my thought. I'd like to put this on the agenda for next city council meeting, to have a vote on it. And if there's any questions in between then and now, please let me know. And for both Maxine and Ms. Linda, I have additional job descriptions for city administrators. I will put in your mailboxes and get it to you so you can review those, and we'll come up with a formal ordinance of sorts.
Okay.
Joe, I will go ahead and take a look at yours. And then I'll talk with Tony to make sure that we're on the right path and make a decision at the next meeting so we can move forward with this. If you all so choose. Maxine, do you have anything else?
I do not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anything else on that one, guys? No. Okay. All right, the last thing on there is the city hall repair and paint quotes. I know that we have gotten back from, you have that open? The paint quote? We just got back from, that's okay. We just got back from convention. I have one quote for the painting of City Hall and its additional buildings, and our city, our public works manager is supposed to get me one. And then when you have that one, go ahead and give that to me. That is the last thing on our agenda for tonight. I knew it was going to be a little bit of a long meeting talking about the HUD application. So we are going to, nobody has anything else to add. I do want to make an announcement on July 2nd for anybody who's listening. There is going to be a road closure over on Forester Cemetery where the gas lines are being replaced. Unfortunately, they were not able to pull out the gas line and pull the other one through. There is a sag in the pipe, and so they can't just pull it out and do that. So they're going to have to dig up the road. I have spoken with Aaron Wadley, our on-call engineer, who was very helpful today. And we're working with the county, going with their specs for another road that they use. The road's going to be closed down for 3 days. There's a concern about emergency vehicles being able to get through. But what's going to happen is we're going to be talking with emergency dispatch and the company, Williams Company, who's doing the pipeline. They will have a metal plate there available. And if dispatch finds that somebody's going to be coming through their emergency vehicles, there will be communication with the people at the site to get the plate in place to get emergency vehicles across so that there is not your life, a situation where somebody's life is at risk. So that's what's going to be going on with that. And that's really it. The road will be closed down for 3 days, starting on July 2nd. If they find that the other two pipes also have sacks in them, they will have to do the same again, and that will be one period of time in August and another period of time in September. So that is what's going on in the city. And our code enforcement and our public works manager are both aware of it, along with our on-call engineer, and he will be the person who will be contacted by the Williams Company if I cannot be reached. And that's it. So with that being said, if there is no other discussion, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
1 second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Okay.